Okay, we've all been there, right? That absolute whirlwind of a major deadline. When you've been running on fumes, just pushing through, and then suddenly it's over. You might think, finally, I could actually crash. But then, well, reality hits pretty hard. The work doesn't actually stop. And you're left staring at a brand new inbox, still feeling that sort of residual hum of stress and wondering, how do you really reset? How do you reclaim your sanity and refocus when the demands just keep coming? Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission today is to give you a kind of blueprint for navigating that really intense period right after a major professional deadline. We're talking about something as full-on as tax season, for example. We're going to dive deep into practical, actionable strategies you can use to manage that lingering stress, hopefully avoid burnout, and crucially, set yourself up for proactive success throughout the rest of the year. Now, these aren't just theories pulled out of thin air. Our insights are coming straight from an expert with deep roots in tax law and extensive experience working remotely for a large tax software firm, sharing really practical advice from their own journey and, observations from peers who've managed to master this tricky transition.
Yeah, that post-crunch time stress is incredibly real. And honestly, it's often underestimated. If you don't actively address it, it doesn't just, magically fade away. It can cling to you. And it really prevents any true sense of a fresh start. It's a challenge you see in a lot of high-pressure professions, actually,
Yeah.
not just tax. And it demands a very deliberate, structured approach. So, yeah, we're aiming to give you the tools to not just survive this period, but to really thrive in it.
Okay, so if the deadline isn't really the finish line, maybe more like a pit stop, what does that actually mean for how we manage ourselves day to day? This idea that April 15th brings some kind of absolute end to tax season, that feels like a bit of a comforting fiction, doesn't it? What's the actual reality for tax pros right after that initial deadline, and
Sure.
why is understanding that so critical for managing, well, your stress levels?
Oh, it absolutely is a fiction. And embracing that truth, I think, is the very first step toward better management. The work just doesn't end with the filing date. It really doesn't. You immediately pivot, right? You're handling extensions, you're addressing urgent e-file rejects that pop up, and you're managing this mountain of ongoing client needs and, endless follow-up tasks. From my experience, and honestly, from observing countless peers struggle with this, the biggest mistake professionals make, the most detrimental one, is not consciously creating a clear separation, a mental, physical, and psychological separation between that intense filing season and whatever comes next. Without that intentional sort of definitive break, all that built-up stress just carries over. You end up feeling perpetually stuck in crunch time, even when the immediate pressure has technically eased off. It's like running a marathon and then never letting your body actually recover before you jump right into the next race. And that just leads straight to burnout, reduced efficiency, and this lingering sense of being completely overwhelmed.
That feeling of perpetual crunch. Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to escape here. So, okay, let's talk about those first few critical days. It sounds like a bit of a tightrope walk. You need to reset, you need to feel refreshed, but you also can't just drop the ball, right? You can't afford to lose momentum when there's still deadlines looming and clients needing things. What are some immediate, tangible steps someone can take right after that filing date to find that balance?
Yeah, finding that balance is key. And the real breakthrough post deadline isn't just about taking a back, it's about strategically engineering your first few days. You want to disarm that residual stress and pivot directly into proactive control instead of just dragging that weight forward with you. So, for instance, on day one, let's say April 16th, for a tax professional, your main almost singular focus should probably be on e-file rejects, but specifically for returns that were timely filed. These are often quick fixes, minor data entry errors, things like that. But they need immediate attention because they impact whether the return was actually considered submitted on time. And the crucial mindset shift here, I think, is understanding the true urgency, or maybe lack thereof in some ways. See, if a return wasn't successfully e-filed by the official deadline, okay, yes, it's technically late for certain things. However, late payment penalties in many jurisdictions accrue monthly, not daily. And that's a really critical distinction because it buys you a little bit of breathing room to fix these e-file issues without that immediate same-day panic. You usually have until, say, the end of the month to resolve those immediate rejects without extra penalties piling up from the IRS side. And then if new documents or, critical information trickles in later, maybe the first week of May, you can triage those more calmly. You likely have until the end of May to integrate them and make any necessary adjustments or amendments. So breaking these follow-up tasks down into smaller, more manageable chunks, instead of seeing this giant, scary blob of post-tax season work that really helps manage the feeling of overwhelm. significantly. It shifts your brain basically from panic mode into project management mode. I've seen this simple segmentation, the simple reframing, turn what feels like a crushing wave into just a series of manageable ripples. It makes a huge difference.
That's such a practical reframing. It's about creating, psychological and actionable bite-sized tasks. I like that. What else can someone implement in that immediate aftermath to really, clean the slate?
Right. Beyond just tackling those immediate e-file issues, I strongly recommend dedicating what I call an administrative cleanup day. Let's say you schedule it for maybe the Thursday, right after the most urgent rejects are handled. Think about it. During crunch time, our organizational systems, our procedures, they often just fall apart, don't they? Physical documents pile up, digital files get saved haphazardly, admin tasks get pushed indefinitely. It's chaos. So this dedicated day is specifically for cleaning up all that administrative backlog. All of it. It's for organizing your physical desk, your digital workspace, clearing out old emails maybe, filing paperwork correctly, and I think most importantly, laying out your upcoming work pipeline. So on this admin day, you'd actually project out which clients you expect will be coming in during the next few months. Think April, May, June. You're not doing the work itself yet, obviously, but you're creating a clear roadmap. This exercise creates just immense clarity. It helps you spot potential bottlenecks way earlier, and it dramatically reduces your mental load. It's basically a proactive attack on future stress. I remember one year, way back, before I started scheduling that admin cleanup day, I spent weeks just feeling like my office was this permanent disaster zone, and that just added to the mental fatigue. Now it's absolutely non-negotiable. It's a core part of my postseason reset routine.
That sounds completely essential for regaining that sense of control. Okay, and then I'm particularly curious about what you call the personal break day. Because, for those of us who sometimes feel guilty even taking a proper lunch break, how do you overcome that internal resistance to truly unplug for a full day, especially right after a deadline?
Ah, yes, the personal break day. This is crucial. Make it a Friday or whatever day works best for you to genuinely disconnect. The absolute importance of taking a full intentional day off, it just cannot be overstated. And this isn't just about resting, like passively resting. It's about active rejuvenation. Use it to do something genuinely enjoyable, something you've been putting off for months because you were too busy, or simply spend quality, completely undistracted time with family or friends. The real trick here, the key, is to set this up and commit to it in advance, like before the tax deadline even hits. Knowing you have that Friday off to look forward to creates this really powerful, positive anticipation. And it acts as a definitive psychological break. It basically gives you permission to push through that final stretch, knowing there's a real finish line for you personally, not just for the tax returns. It's about signaling to your brain, loud and clear, that the war is truly over, at least for a moment. The goal is to come back on Monday feeling genuinely refreshed, mentally sharper, and ready to pick things back up with renewed energy. Instead of just dragging all that accumulated stress and fatigue into the next week and the week after that, it's a total game changer for long-term sustainability. I've seen that small investment in time pay huge dividends in focus and resilience for weeks afterward. It really works. That planned psychological break, that's brilliant. Yeah, it's not just a random day off. It's a strategic reset button. But okay, beyond those immediate post-deadline days, what happens when the adrenaline completely wears off and you're just left facing the long haul? How do we build a system, maybe, that prevents that overwhelmed feeling from just creeping back in throughout the rest of the year? Yeah, you're hitting on a really critical point there. Those immediate steps, they're crucial for hitting the reset button, absolutely. But maintaining that sense of control, that requires sustained effort and, importantly, good systems. Strong, well-defined procedures are just vital for managing stress effectively in the long run. My personal go-to, and what I often recommend, is a simple 3-list system. Ideally managed in something flexible like an Excel spreadsheet or maybe a project management tool, anything that allows for multiple tabs or views easily. So you'd have 3 distinct sheets or categories. The first is your active list. These are the clients you're literally working on right now, and crucially, you have all the necessary materials from them. It's your immediate actionable to-do list for today, for this week. The second sheet is pending. Okay, these are clients you need to work on, but you're stuck waiting for crucial information or documents from them. And on this list, you track exactly what you've already done for them, and very importantly, what specific items you're still waiting on from the client. This stops you constantly recalculating or sending unnecessary follow-ups. And finally, the third sheet is completed. So these are clients whose work is entirely finished, filed, closed out. But, and this is key, It's also where you keep concise notes for next year's filing or maybe potential future situations, issues that came up. It's not just a done list, it's actually a knowledge base for the future. Now, the psychological benefits of this system are, well, they're immense. And the practical benefits too. This isn't just another to-do list. It's like a visual feedback loop that actively helps rewire your brain a bit. As you move clients from pending to active and then, triumphantly move them over to completed, you literally see your work in progress pile shrink. And you see your completed list grow. Each client move transforms that kind of amorphous anxiety into tangible progress. It gives you this powerful, undeniable sense of control. It significantly reduces that feeling of being overwhelmed because you know exactly where everything stands at a glance. You don't have to keep it all juggling in your head. It's basically the ultimate anti-overwhelm tool, really. It makes it so much easier to keep your priorities straight and focus your energy where it's most needed. Plus, honestly, it's incredibly satisfying to check things off and see that real progression. It really fuels motivation.
Visualizing progress like that, yeah, that sounds incredibly powerful for just maintaining momentum. But I can imagine someone maybe with, I don't know, 1,000 pending clients or tasks, looking at that pending tab and feeling even more overwhelmed initially. How do you suggest someone starts implementing something like this without just getting completely bogged down right at the start?
That's a really great question. And yeah, it's a common initial reaction, definitely. The trick is to start small. Start incrementally. Don't try to categorize all 1,000 clients on day one. That would be insane. Just pick maybe your top 10 most urgent or most active clients right now and put them into the system. Then, as you finish one, you move it over to completed. Celebrate that little win. Then, as new information comes in for another client or a new project starts, you add them to pending or active as they arise. You'll find that within just a few weeks, the system kind of naturally fills up and becomes your primary workflow tool. It's really about building a habit, not tackling some massive one-time data entry project. Think of it as a living, breathing document, not a static list you create once.
That makes perfect sense. Build the habit. Don't try to boil the ocean on day one.
Okay.
Okay, so with this kind of systematic organization potentially in place, what does this all mean for making that shift, from simply being reactive, just dealing with whatever fire pops up, to being truly proactive in a client's financial life? The industry buzzes constantly about this advisory role, but for many folks on the ground, it still feels kind of aspirational, maybe not fully actionable day to day. Are these organizational tools, like the list system, are they the bridge to becoming truly proactive? Or is there another shift, maybe a mindset, that needs to happen at the same time to move beyond just compliance?
That shift from pure compliance to a genuine advisory role is, yeah, it's huge. And these organizational tools, they are absolutely foundational. You can't really do it without them. But the true bridge, the thing that makes it actionable, I believe, is proactive planning driven by calendar reminders. Simple calendar reminders. They offload that massive mental burden of trying to remember all the key dates, the important client conversations you need to have, the strategic check-ins. And this is precisely where your administrative cleanup day that we talked about comes in so handy again. You use that focus time not just to clean up the past, but to set these reminders for the entire year ahead. You're literally mapping out your proactive outreach strategy. And year-round planning suddenly becomes much more tangible, much less daunting. You can schedule conversations based on the natural flow of the year and the tax cycle itself. For instance, April, right after filing, that's perfect timing for discussing things like 401k or IRA contributions, maybe recharacterizations, even Roth conversions that might have been put on hold during the rush. These are immediate opportunities to add value way beyond just filing the return. Then the summer, during the extension period, it allows you to handle client queries as they come in, but usually without that intense immediate filing pressure. So it's actually a great time for maybe less urgent, more strategic discussions about the future. Then fast forward to after October 15th, when the vast majority of extensions are finally filed, you basically have a second similar reset period. And this is the absolute ideal time to focus hard on year-end planning. Think about setting reminders for yourself in, say, late November or early December to proactively discuss things like tax loss harvesting for clients with investments that's an action that must happen before December 31st. Or, proactive conversations about maybe purchasing electric vehicles for potential EV credits or energy efficient home improvements for those credits. Again, things that often require action before the calendar year actually ends. By proactively setting these reminders way in advance, you're not scrambling trying to chase clients down at the last minute in December. You're guiding them efficiently, you're demonstrating real value, and you're solidifying that advisory relationship. Imagine telling a client back in July about a potential EV credit they could claim if they bought an electric vehicle before year-end. That's not just compliance, right? That's real, actionable financial advice that could save them money. That's the goal.
That really lays out a clear path to becoming that true advisor, moving beyond just the forms. Okay, this does raise another important question though. In a field like tax, where the laws are just constantly changing, constantly evolving, and client situations are so incredibly varied, how do tax professionals stay consistently up to date? How do you make sure you're providing the best, most accurate advice? It honestly feels like trying to hit a constantly moving target sometimes.
It absolutely can feel like a moving target. Yeah. And that's really the ongoing challenge and frankly, part of the job in this profession. Leveraging those slower periods is just crucial for continuous learning. It has to be intentional. That time after October 15th, for example, when most extensions are filed, that's truly ideal for this. It's generally less stressful than the spring crunch time, obviously. And the information you absorb then is fresh and directly relevant for the upcoming new tax year you're about to enter. It's about intentional knowledge acquisition, not just sort of reactive learning when a client asks a question you don't know the answer to. So this is the time when you actively engage in activities like taking continuing education courses. Many professional associations offer fantastic seminars, webinars, things like that. It's also prime time for digging in and researching new tax items yourself, reading specialized articles and blogs from reputable sources, and just generally familiarizing yourself with different possibilities, different planning scenarios that might impact various types of clients you serve. For example, maybe staying updated on changes to specific credits or deductions for small businesses, or understanding the evolving regulations around remote work, which, as we know, can have really significant tax implications for people. As for, specific valuable resources, I always recommend going straight to the source first whenever possible. The IRS publications and their form instructions are actually surprisingly excellent. They offer really digestible guidance on many specific topics. They've gotten much better over the years. Now, for more in-depth research, or maybe when you need to verify something you've heard elsewhere, or really deeply understand the nuances of a particular rule, law.cornell.edu is a fantastic, free public resource. It gives you direct access to the actual tax law codes, the Internal Revenue Code, and the Treasury regulations. This is incredibly useful, especially if you get involved in more complex situations like audits or appeals, where citing the direct code reference is absolutely crucial to support your position. And beyond those official sources, continuing education seminars are definitely a staple for most professionals. They often provide very practical interpretations of new laws and how to apply them. And of course, keeping up with blogs and articles from other experienced, respected professionals in the field is a great way to stay on top of practical applications, common pitfalls people running into, and just real-world industry insights. The overall goal is really to build this robust current knowledge base so you can confidently not just file the returns correctly, but truly advise your clients proactively on their financial decisions throughout the entire year.
Wow, what an incredible deep dive that was. Really transforming that post-deadline stress into actual structure and proactive planning. We've covered so much ground, the absolute importance of creating those dedicated mental breaks for yourself, mastering systematic organization through things like task segmentation and those really powerful three-list systems, and the game-changing magic, maybe, of proactive planning driven by strategic calendar reminders. And of course, crucially, staying sharp and current with continuous learning using reliable resources. It truly feels like a comprehensive roadmap from feeling overwhelmed to actually feeling in control.
Absolutely. And if we just connect this back to the bigger picture for a second, the greatest value in knowledge, any knowledge, really comes when it's not just understood intellectually, but when it's actually applied, put into practice. So perhaps our final thought for you, the listener, to consider today is this. How might you apply just one of these insights we discussed? Whether it's deliberately scheduling a personal break day, maybe starting to organize your tasks with a simple three-list system, or even just setting one proactive calendar reminder for an important client discussion later this year. How can you use just one small step to feel a little more in control, perhaps more effective, and hopefully less overwhelmed in the coming weeks and months, in your own professional or even personal life?
That's a great question to leave everyone with. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive today. We really encourage you to explore how these principles might bring some much-needed clarity and control to your own busy schedules. Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Taxes podcast.